Now, over the past couple of years, we've been asking you to tell us if you have an unsung heroine or hero of the British film industry in your family. We've heard from the children of FX wizards, character actors and matte painters. And today, meet Shirley Finn, teenage script girl who worked in the British film industry just after the war. First as a secretary, then as script girl, script supervisor, continuity. The role can have different titles, but it's all encompassing and very intense. They are never not there during a take, however small. Although Shirley only worked for 7 years, she documented almost every day of her time in the film business. Whether she was filming in a rain-sodden Butlins or high in the Alps, there are endless letters, immaculately typed journals, handwritten diary entries, and she kept them all stacked in her house in North London, as her son Paul Kleiman discovered just after she died in 2012.
We've got a cupboard just full of stuff. I mean, we've got 2 massive folders called My Life. Her diary continues up to the day she went into hospital at the very end. We had no idea about this stuff until after she died, and we started.
So you found this after her death?
We found all this stuff after her death. There was a cupboard in her bedroom, the last cupboard in her bedroom, which was just wasn't closed. It was just stacked full of boxes and folders and stuff like that. You know, with this.
So can we have a little closer look at what we have here? I was looking at this. Is 5th of September 1945. Last night I saw the most wonderful film for a long time. It's being banned in England. This was a private showing.
The showing has been given by the director Billy Wilder, who was in England for a while, just to a few people. The film isn't box officed, nor is it pure entertainment, but it's been banned here because no English cinema can show a film about drug addicts or insanity. But I do think if it was shown, it would do much more good than if it was a documentary or sermonising about the ills of drinking.
She just typed that on a piece of paper. Some of that may end up in the diary, or something in the diary may end up in the journal.
Was she a movie-goer?
Yes, I mean, the diaries, I've got these diaries. In the back of these diaries, these are just the small schoolgirl diaries. In the back of this, there's a list of every book she's read over the year, every film she's seen, and every concert she's been to.
Paul, can I have a little look at one of those diaries?
Absolutely.
These are tiny little things.
That's a list of the films she's worked on.
So these are ones that she's working on. So you've got Holiday Camp here. I can scarcely read this. The writing is absolutely... It's like spy. It's like a spy wrote it.
I mean, she never went to bed. She always went to bed really late throughout her life. She would never go to bed without writing a diary.
Always write it.
Always writing it.
Last week, I felt I hadn't a minute to lose to ring up all the studios I could think of for a job. Right now, I feel that I don't give a damn whether I ring up this week or next. And I shouldn't feel that way. I seem to have lost the sense of urgency. Anyway, I can't get a job, so it's just a case of going nowhere fast.
She always had her eye out, didn't she, for other positions, other jobs, other places to go to?
That's right. So she worked for RKO, then she was looking around, and then she joined MGM with a view to becoming continuity. Except the day she arrived as a continuity, they cancelled the film. So she was banished to a basement office somewhere in Belgrave Square. She was hooked up with a woman called Carol Brandt, who I'd never heard of. But if you Google these names these days.
She's an incredible person.
Extraordinary person. The beautiful vulture of Hollywood. So she'd come over, basically, to pinch as much British talent as she...
So she was the story editor for MGM,
She was the international story editor for...
Which is basically scout around finding interesting stories.
That's right. But, I mean, during the war, she'd been a war correspondent. She'd travelled all over the place. And my mum was just exhausted.
I found out her life story, which she told me in the few minutes before she left by plane for Sweden. She comes from New England, that's enough. Married at 19, didn't love her husband, but he had money. Lived in Budapest for a year and then all over Europe. She's 42, looks about 30, and is gay and so entertaining. Night clubbing until 4:30 and then start at 9 again in the morning. And what a pace.
So here we go. I mean, these aren't my post-it notes. These are her post-it notes. So she's clearly meant someone to read them. That's when she started Holiday
She has a little here saying, start of the film Holiday Camp on location. And these were a very popular series of films, weren't they, with Jack Warner?
That's when the Huggets first appeared in Holiday Camp, and they became a whole series of films. She turned up at Gainsborough on the Monday morning, first day at work, to be told, you're off to Scarborough on the Tuesday. So after she went on the train to Scarborough, and they were filming at Butlins.
So here she is filming in a post-war Butlins.
Yes,
it must have been quite gloomy, I would have thought.
If you read the diary, she was very disappointed, very disappointed with Butlins. It was really, and the weather was terrible. This is Scarborough in October.
The situation is quite ludicrous. The film as a whole went quite well for me. There were 1 or 2 slip-ups, some which didn't notice and others which I rectified without anybody noticing at first. I had 1 or 2 nights at the very beginning of the first week when I cried myself to sleep and thought I simply can't go on. But that passed over.
Who actually taught her?
Nobody. Into later life, watching a film with her was a complete nightmare. Absolute nightmare.
Was she always spotting mistakes?
Spotting mistakes all the time.
Really?
All the time. You know, that cigarette is only half gone when he started smoking. And now it's full. Or he wasn't wearing that tie, or that picture's moved, or that table hasn't been set.
Honey, I've got a job. Continuity with the Crown Film Unit.
There's a whole thing about wage negotiations when she doesn't get it. So they're giving her the job. She hands in a notice at MGM. Then on the Friday, she gets a letter to say, I'm sorry, the committee, because it's the Crown Film Unit, it's funded by the government. So everything has to go through committee. So they'd obviously say, we want to employ my mum as continuity, and the committee come back and say, no, we can only afford a shorthand typist, which she refused. No, she wasn't going to do that. So she hands in notice on Friday on the MGM, and Monday she turns up again.
Reggie dear, I have sad news. I'm not working with Crown, but I'm now with Corder on the location unit for Bonnie Prince Charlie.
But it's happening all the time, though, doesn't it? She gets one job and then it doesn't exist, and then she's moved on to the next thing,
right.
And you do get a sense, as it was ever thus, the chaos of the film industry.
I mean, some of it's very funny because the frustrations of it as well, and there's the lunacy of what's actually going on behind the scenes all the time. So after the war, obviously there's rationing going on, things are really tight, and they're still trying to make all these films.
You do get a sense of someone who cared a lot.
Yes. Getting things right, doing things properly, being really organised. I mean, when she's working on The Rescue, which is up in the Alps, there's a whole load of letters and postcards to her parents. And often it'll be, I have to stop now because I have to type up the notes for tomorrow, or then keep the diary for the shooting schedule.
Well, she must have loved writing because she spent all day noticing, then she had to type up what she'd seen, and then she's also voluntarily writing her own journal and letters to friends and family. She never stops writing.
She never stops writing. And also she was politically engaged as well. She was a member of the Young Communist Party at that time. So and there's the elections, there's 45, there's the end of the war. You can see the stuff here that's laid out in front of us. It's all highly organised, all typed out. Very few mistakes in the typing as well. She
does mention as well, doesn't she, that there was a lot of women. I suppose a lot of the men hadn't got back established their own careers again. And so actually this was a very small window of time where it was quite good to be a woman in film.
That's right. If you look at the photos, I mean, they're all men.
Right. So we've got some photographs here.
Those are photographs of the crew of the various films. And you can see that. I mean, there's 30, 40 men in the crew and maybe 3 or 4 women.
Is this your mum in the car?
That's my mum in the car.
Right, OK, so what we have is sort of 15 guys, and they're all in the back of a car. And they've got the cameraman at the front, and then one young woman in the front seat, and that's your mum.
Swinburne, whom you know, told me that if the film's done, they'll need 3 continuities, 2 in the studio and 1 on location. He said the 2 on location have got to be attractive, which counts me out, but I said perhaps he'd take me if I had a facelift.
She talks about wanting to go abroad, and they're going to be 3 continuity people and they have to be attractive, and she says, I'll need a facelift. That's
right. Clearly there's that sort of innate sexism going on. You were judged on as much as where you looked as well on the quality of your work.
Even as the script girl?
Even as a script girl, even as continuity. In fact, that she was actually very well aware of that. That was just part and parcel of that whole work environment.
So she's 24 when she gives it up.
Yes.
What was it like for her to stop doing all that? I mean, the involvement and the enthusiasm for it is manifest.
Yeah, you get into the 50s. So she married in 48. She actually stopped work in 1950 when I came along. And you do get a sense in some of the diaries of just a different life, and sort of looking back, and so there's that's fate in one sense. Being quite fatalistic. That was my life then. This is my life now. I got to make the best of it.
She sounds like an extraordinary person.
She was, actually. When she passed away, we had 500, 600 people turned up for the funeral. It had quite an effect on lots and lots of people.
And that was Paul Kleiman. And you can see some of his mum's photos and diary entries on our website, along with Shirley's poem about being a script girl. And if you have an unsung hero or heroine of the British film industry, please do get in touch.